What's the worst thing you've ever had to clean up? I caught my roommate's dog eating a dead raccoon. It smelled terrible, but it smelled worse when it came back up later in our living room. I had the same thing happen with a bunny. A raccoon sounds infinitely worse. I'll see your bunny and raise you a Magoti green llama. At first I read this as your roommates were eating a dead raccoon. What's wrong with that, sir or madam? I missed the word dog when I read that the first time. I read dog eating as dog eating and grew concerned and also curious. This did not happen to me. This is a second-hand story. My mother dated a guy that worked on the tarmac at the airport. One of his job duties was helping get planes ready for their next takeoff. Things like emptying the septic tanks. Poor guy. On at least 2 occasions I know of, there was a valve malfunction or something, resulting in the contents pouring out of the plane all over him. Dr. Guy I knew cleaned up other people's waste off of himself. Twice. I hope they let him call it a day after both instances. My sister is wheelchair bound and has a hard time getting around and doing simple tasks like going to the bathroom. If it's urgent, she sometimes can't make it. One time she got the flu while my parents were out of town. She tried her hardest to get to the bathroom on time, but didn't quite make it and puke all over the toilet, the floor and the wall. Since I was staying with her while my parents were out, she tried to clean it up herself, but fell out of her wheelchair into the puke. I felt so bad for her, and she felt so bad for me. US Army vet here. Worst was a suicide bomber at an Iraqi police checkpoint in Ramadi for dead bodies pretty ripped up. Then the bomber himself. He had the bomb on a bicycle so his torso was gone from below his belly button area. When we picked him up by the arms, chunks of organs fell out. Shoveled the big pieces up and went back to work. I'm very sorry you've been through this. I hope you are doing okay now. What you went through is genuinely terrible and not something any human should have to ever witness. I'm doing great, thanks. Spent 2 years there, 03, 04 then again in 06. You get used to it. Besides, the stuff the poor guys in WWI and WWII went through makes my generation's war look like Boy Scout camp. A caretaker at kindergarten realized that the freezer wasn't on. Someone must have accidentally turned it off somehow. They waited. And waited. And waited until they could wait no more. A week had passed when they remembered. And NBSP, suffice to say, the food was beyond gone, and the smell was sickening. The kitchen was quarantined, and no children were allowed in until I had finished. I was down by the Gulf Coast gutting houses that hadn't been occupied in the 9 weeks that had passed since Hurricane Katrina. Everything had to go, including the fridge freezer, which had just been sitting there, without power, in the Mississippi heat. Remember that seafood is a staple down there. We always kept the doors shut and the stench was still horrible, even while wearing face masks smeared with Vicks VapoRub on the inside. One time as we were carrying it, the freezer door fell open. The smell of 9+ weeks old rotting fish hitting my nostrils is something I will never forget. Each of us simultaneously dropped the freezer and starting vomiting. This isn't going to sound bad, but I had just gotten home from a 24-hour shift of non-stop fires and medicals, and was absolutely exhausted with a full day ahead of me. I put coffee in my French press, filled it with water, then washed a pan, and when moving the pan to the dryer rack, I absolutely swatted the French press, instantly shattering it. The glass, coffee, water, it was completely dispersed throughout my kitchen. Floors, counters, cabinets, windowsills. I just sank to the floor. And this part I'm not proud of. I called my mom. Yeah, I was 29 at the time. She came right over, happier and cheerier than ever, that her son still needed her sometimes. She cleaned it up while I took a 30-minute power nap. My mom rules. My grandma had a glass eye, and one day it was giving her trouble, so I had to pull her eye out with a little plunger, clean it, then clean the pus out of her eye socket. She put it back in herself. Luckily, I was surprised to see that glass eyes, or hers anyway, were not actually just spheres. It was like the front part of a sphere, but like only 70 degrees of an arc. Anyway, it wasn't pleasant. A box of mackerel meat fell behind a freezer and nobody noticed for quite a few days. The entire grill area smelled so bad that customers were complaining and leaving. A few more days passed, and flies started swarming in the building. I eventually got fed up with it, so I abandoned my post in the drive-thru to figure out what died. When I found the box, the cardboard was soggy and green. The meat inside was a red, gray, and green nightmare covered in flies and maggots. Without breathing, I put on 3 pairs of gloves, grabbed the limp box of horribleness, and set it on my manager's desk with a visceral splorching sound. I then clocked out for lunch. I have 2 great ones for this. First one, it's the final day of a summer vacation. So my mum starts preparing lunch for me and my sister. We were about 12 years old. Not as if I make my lunch myself now. I'm 15 lol. But she could not find my sister's I don't know the word in English box that you use to put your food in. My mom then found her box to put food in her bag to put, you know, your school books in. And the box had been there for more than 2 months. There were still 2 sandwiches in it. The second one, I found a banana in my bag. It was black and stunky Allet. It had been there for a couple of months too. Oh, I think the word you're looking for is lunchbox. I can't imagine the level of mold in that bag though. My brother did a similar thing with a banana. I threw it out the window on the side of the highway, and I felt like Mario Kart. While in the Navy, a jet crashed in the desert and the debris was scattered about 1-2 mile stretch. All of us in the squadron had to walk arm's length apart to pick up any pieces that we came across. We were instructed that, if we came upon anything that could be a piece of the pilot, we were to mark it with a small flag. That's so awful. I'm very sorry. I never knew how they would deal with those types of situations. I'm sorry you had to be involved in this instance. Baby puke at Red Robin. The kid was stuffed with the kids menu spaghetti that comes straight out of a bag. As I was cleaning it, the baby just continued to throw up, increasing my disgusting workload. Spaghetti that comes straight out of a bag? Nope. That scarred me along with this disgusting image. Spaghetti is such a simple thing to cook to lol. Just do it, right, or take it off the kids menu lol. I don't see how it's a kid's food anyway. For reference, I've had to clean severe burn wounds and a tracheotomy tube, and none of that is as bad as the time a girl for wasted came to the movie theater that I managed and threw up in the trash bin that was connected to the wall. It was a square bin. Puke everywhere. On the wall. On the bin. In the bin that we had to scoop out because she must have pushed the bag down in the process. On the floor. Everywhere. Not disgusting, just difficult. My dad bought me a smoothie and I dropped it on the carpet and it literally would not go away. Carpet is horrible. After growing up with many animals who have continuously dumped on my carpet and many foods and drinks spilled, I never want to have it again. I feel like it's never really clean. Those glass bottle Starbucks coffees. Both sharp, sticky and attractive to cats. Not me, but a coworker. She told me that she was going to a funeral because her cousin died. A week later she says he committed suicide in his apartment, shot himself point blank in the head. It was going to cost tens of thousands of dollars for a special cleanup crew to do it. So her and other family members apparently cleaned up all the blood and bits themselves. I don't know much more than that, but I was shocked at how normal she was after having to clean up your own family member's body matter. When I was in college, a couple of friends of mine that lived together offered me and my girlfriend a case of beer if we cleaned up their apartment. On the surface it didn't seem that bad of a task. The living room was a bit out of order and we found some moldy plates and cups hidden under the couch. However, when we got to the kitchen it was a different story. Their drain kept clogging, which was making difficult for us, so I decided to check to see what that problem was. There was rotting meat underneath the drain catcher, which was causing the clog. It was one of the most disgusting things I have handled. Worked at a major retail company. Trucks mostly come in with boxes upon boxes, stacked on top of each other that we unload, not in pallets like most stores. About halfway through was an exploded box of log cabin syrup that got crushed. It was on the top of the pile of boxes. It stuck to everything. No box would slide down the line. No box would leave my hands when I tried to drop them on the line. No box would separate from other boxes. It suspended the unload process by almost 2 hours. I was the manager of a small fast food restaurant. Some homeless guy broke into our exterior bathrooms after we closed and smeared feces over every surface of the bathroom. Walls, floor, ceiling, toilet, sink, mirror, door handle, TP dispenser. He scrubbed it into the grout, into the edges and corners. I should have called a professional cleaner, but instead I threw on a respirator and Tyvek and filled a mop bucket full of bleach water and soap and started scrubbing. Almost 30 years later now, and I still shudder at the thought. We had just popped out to the shop, came home and it smelt like an open sewer. Take a look outside the back and see the dog covered in what we thought was mud. Look past him and see bits of old towel and a trail leading down the garden towards the place we buried our cat not so long ago. Turns out he had dug up and rolled in the rather gooey remains. We had to hose him off multiple times before bringing him to clean with doggy shampoo. Took several days for the smell to mostly disappear, not to mention having to replace and rebreed the cat. A 1-year-old cat's diarrhea, along with his twin, both shared the same litter box. Not even my own cat, with stomach issues, could average out to what these pseudo kittens did. My friend and I work at the animal shelter as volunteers. He got to cleaning the poopy box and immediately started coughing and gagging. Mind you, this guy worked at a truck stop cleaning things that were apparently far worse. And he's had cats before. He worked on a farm. I asked him if he wanted to step outside for some fresh air and he declined, joking that he wanted Febreze. I helped him clean it up. Unfortunately the volunteer director got wind and didn't take too kindly to his reaction. He just got laid off this week because of it. Not me, but my best friend. He was working at a Mexican restaurant and this dude comes in and asks to see the bathroom. The dude goes to the bathroom and is gone for 30 plus minimums. After he walks out my friend had to go clean what was there. Turns out the dude left a pretty nice surprise for my friend. He nutted all over the toilet bowl seat tank. My friend had to clean it with no gloves, only cleaners and paper towels.